whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show. Up here in Northern California, it is muggy, but it has been a very wild weekend in Southern California, especially obviously yesterday and today, as you saw from the headline of the show, HURRIQUAKE. And I don't know how you add tornado into that word, because there was also a tornado warning for Southern California. So we will be getting into all that. I have some crazy pictures from, a news report when the earthquake was happening, in addition to the hurricanes, tropical storm warnings. And Kim McAllister is here. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning.
I can't imagine being in LA living through this right now, because it's just not common. Like I mentioned on Friday.
What kind of state is this anyway? This isn't our state. We have wildfires and earthquakes.
Yeah, oh my. Now we have to add
hurricanes, tropical storms, tornadoes.
I don't mean to laugh, because obviously the devastation is insane. At first, who was thinking it was going to be a big old nothing burger after a while? It just seemed people weren't taking it, right, at least on Saturday, very seriously. And then all of a sudden, it definitely played out the way they were warning us it was going to be played out. But yeah, there was an earthquake, there was a tornado warning, and of course the tropical storm Hilary did make landfall. And yes, give it up for my Niners, who won on Saturday. I actually missed the game. This was the other thing I did on Saturday, Kim. She was asking me before we did the show, what'd you do? I did back to school shopping. We also had my parents' block party. So, sorry, Matthew. So that was also what we did. So I missed the game. I was at the block party, but I watched the highlights. So I had to give some Niner love on my show today. So we'll be talking about the HURRIQUAKE and tornado warning. We'll touch a little bit on Trumpy Trump. He's made a decision, Kim. I don't think it's surprising anybody that he's going to be a big old baby and not do the debate. So I'm not really that surprised about it. One of his opponents, I don't know, another candidate, he says he's going to prosecute Trump, whether he's there or not. I don't know if that's really going to work. I really don't. I don't think that if Trump is there, I know he's going to do the Tucker Carlson thing possibly. So I don't know. And then another thing I want to touch on today, which is so sad, is that woman that was killed over a pride flag in her store.
Oh, yeah.
It was awful. So freaky. I mean,
she's like a mother of 9.
This is down in San Bernardino County. Yeah, she's a mom of 9, a straight woman, but down in that area. I was watching one news report, and I'll play it for you a little bit later. But, she down there, it's sometimes LGBTQ members don't feel particularly safe or welcome. And they were talking to some people about it. And he said that this woman, Lori, she hung that pride flag so that they would. That's why she was flying it. It's like, no, you're welcome in my store. You're welcome. And then two people dead over a freaking flag. And all people want to do is just live their lives and love each other. And I just don't get it. So we'll get into that. I wasn't able to touch on it on Friday because we just had such a packed show. I do want to go back to the robotaxi debacle, because today they can start charging fees. Robotaxi can start charging fees. But at the same time, the DMV is looking at crews and being like, you need to cut your fleet significantly. Mm-hmm. And the one question I have when we talk about this is, who's asking for robotaxis? Who's asking for them? I mean, I have never in the history of ever been like, I don't want a human being driving me. Now, I understand smart cars and, all these kind of safety devices, but I'm still behind the wheel. Who's asking for this? And if you're desperate for this, if you can't wait, or if you've been in one of those, because I know some people have ridden them before, I mean, why? Why do we need something like this? Is it just because we can? Doesn't mean that we should do this. It's kind of that age-old question. So we will debate that as well. And if we have time, I read an interesting article because I know I've seen a lot of commercials about COVID and boosters and things like that. Apparently, there is research showing that which arm you choose to get a booster in matters on how well you are protected. Yeah, CNN had this. Very interesting. It makes sense to me, but we'll get into that as well. So that's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show. But before we do that, you know we have to get the business out of the way. Everybody, please click that thumbs up button to show your support of the show. Also, make sure you've subscribed and check that bell so you're notified, when new shows are released. And that's just a free, easy way to show your support of the show. The super chat is also live. And as always, Harry, thank you for starting us off on this Monday morning with our $5 donation. Harry, you're awesome. I really, really do appreciate it. I know Kim does as well. It's just awesome to get that regular support. And if you want to be a regular supporter of this show and not have to worry about it at all, the easiest way is to become a monthly Patreon subscriber. So just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. Sign up on our Patreon. You could sign up for any amount that you can afford. Some people do it for $5. Some people do it for $50. Whatever you can afford, we appreciate so much because it's consistent. You are charged once a month. So once you make your payment, that date that you made that initial payment is the date they will take that money again in the following month. And we just really depend on that because that's what keeps the light on. Also, if you like PayPal, there's my email address, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. That's the show email. That's the way to reach me. That's the way to make PayPal donations. And then, of course, there's the merch shop, thenikkimedoroshop.com. But you can find it all and links to our podcast and how to share the show with your friends and family at thenikkimedoroshow.com. Okay, so let's talk about the hurricane/tornado warning. It's pretty insane. So schools in Los Angeles County, even though the storm, obviously it's been downgraded, they're telling everybody, do not go to school today. The roads are absolutely flooded. There's power outages, 911 outage in places like Palm Springs. It is insane. I want to show you some of the pictures here. Now, there's something called, and again, I'm not from LA, right? But there's something called the LA River, which not is actually a river. It's just a man-made waterway. It's a canal. You see it in movies. Here's a movie scene. All right. They do the drag races. This is what it looks like normally. But I'm going to show you what it looks like because it just was crazy. Here it is. Okay. So people, now don't do this. This is what people were doing as the storm was going. These are some joggers. Look at this video. That's the LA River right there.
Oh, we have to take down that picture.
Oh. Okay, hold on. Let me start it over. Look at those. Look, there you go. There you go. Look at that. Don't do that. Don't cross. Don't do it. Don't do it. Are they going to do it?
Are they jogging in Speedos?
Look at them. They're like, I'm going to do it. Now, they're idiots. They should not have done that.
Totally.
I mean, they're idiots. So, but yeah, look at that water. Look at that water.
Wow.
Here's another news report. I mean, just to kind of put these things in perspective, because we don't often see this sort of stuff.
Right now, this is outside our broadcast center in Studio City.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the LA River. We're keeping an eye on the water as the level continues to rise. Keep in mind, the power of the storm is just getting started. We're not there yet. So obviously the river is going to get way, way higher. Whenever the storm hits LA, this is where the rain ends up. We're talking about 48 miles of winding Los Angeles River. It flows out toward our ocean, usually collecting odds and ends along the way, which wash downstream. They collect in Long Beach. And we told you there has actually been an ocean water quality advisory for the beaches in LA County. So they're telling people, if you plan on going to the beaches, just know, avoid the water. The water is contaminated. Also, parking is closed today. So if you go there, there's nowhere to park.
Yeah. So think of all the garbage, right? And all the trash and everything that's just going down there. I've just been I literally have been fascinated. So I have all these videos to show you. There's this one.
When the river will crest.
Look at those.
Over on the other side, there's a bike path that you can see has sort of been taken over by a homeless encampment under there.
People,
That
the homeless.
sign,
Oh.
I don't know if I can focus on it. There it is. That's a 10-foot sign. So from the bottom of the bridge, or that sign right there, it's about 10 feet, 12 feet to get down to that path. And just under that is the water line right now. So that's just a rough guesstimate, about 14 feet from the bottom of the bridge. And if you come over to this side, you can see the bottom of the bridge is actually right about at the level that we're on this pathway right now. This pathway is actually the edge of the river on this side. And if the river crests this, it drops down another 15 to 20 feet in elevation, and there's a neighborhood.
Yeah.
So that would be bad.
Mm-hmm. That would be bad. That would absolutely be bad. And so, they're dealing with all this. I love Chris's rafting weather. Yeah. Do not do that. But then at the same time, of course, there was an earthquake. So here I found on Twitter a news report, KABC on air when this was happening.
Chief, I'm really sorry to interrupt you right now. Our studio is shaking right now. So not only are we dealing with a tropical storm, but it appears we're now dealing with an earthquake.
Okay,
yeah.
and,
So we do have an alert coming out now.
People are receiving alerts on their phones at this moment. You likely did not feel it, Chief. I didn't feel it. Jory turned to me and said, "We're having an earthquake." I did not feel it.
Yeah,
but
we heard some squeaking in our rafters. And then,
I did hear that.
Yeah, side to side, it was
And our
felt.
director is saying that the lights were moving in the director's booth. So
when it rains, it pours. Literally here from
and
Mother Nature.
we don't want to cut you off, Chief, but
I don't know how this affects your plans, Chief. Does this at all? Do you need to go, Chief? I'm really.
Yeah, so that was in near Ojai. It was like a 4.9 or a 5.1. I think it was downgraded from a 5.1. But can you imagine?
I love how she's like, you probably didn't feel it just because she didn't. But
Exactly.
everyone else in the studio felt it. She's like, you probably didn't feel it. No, they felt it.
Isn't that how it normally is? Like sometimes you'll be in there like, did you feel it? And everyone will be like, no, I didn't feel it. And the other person's like, yeah, I felt it. And you're next door to each other. So earthquakes are weird like that. I always feel like I never feel them. And then all of a sudden when I do, I get all excited about it, as long as it's not a gigantic, destructive earthquake. And then finally, there's this picture. And here it is. This was the tornado warning right near San Diego. You'll see it right there on your screen. So you see Tropical Storm Hilary is going up that line past the tornado warning and east of the earthquake. It's just, kind of little triangle of catastrophe going on right there.
You look at something like that and I think to myself, if Pat Robertson were here, he'd be saying, these people in California, this shows that God is, is out to get them. I don't know, whatever.
Exactly.
It's one of these rare moments where, things collide. What a weird weekend though for people.
Absolutely.
Really get much. We got a few water drops here in Sonoma County, but not much else.
Oh no, it was hotter than hell on Saturday. I mean, we were like in the mid 80s, but it's been muggy. That's what it's really been. It's just gross kind of out. Like I don't feel like I'm ever getting really cooled down unless the breeze kicks up. So yeah, we're feeling it that way. It's heading up or it's already in the Lake Tahoe area. I think Las Vegas is also under a storm watch. But this was also happening. This is Disneyland. Disneyland, the Incredicoaster was evacuated with people on the rides. Pixar Pier, all the restaurants, everybody was evacuated because of the flood. Rides, restaurants, everything. The Incredicoaster again was stopped mid-ride. Rescue crews had to scale the ride to release the riders. Now, remember when I went down to Magic Mountain for my daughter's birthday this past February, and that massive storm was the same weekend. I remember, but we went to Universal Studios. We didn't go to Disneyland, or Magic Mountain was where she wanted to go. But we went to Universal Studios, and I remember calling because I was afraid they were going to be shut down. I was going to drive all the way down there. And she's like, we don't shut down for pretty much anything. But that's Universal Studios. And I don't know. I know Disney shut down Universal Studios, obviously in a different location, but I can imagine they would definitely not want anything terrible to happen at the happiest place on earth. So no, it's going to take a long time for them to clean up that mess. If you've seen any of the pictures, it's pretty nuts. Obviously Governor Newsom has declared a disaster emergency, and so they're going to get all sorts of help to clean things up. But it's insane. It's really, really a lot of cleanup. I saw, gas stations, cars floating down the street. Trevor's in Hollywood, actually downtown LA, says he lucked out here, just got a little rain, didn't feel the earthquake at all. Anybody else down there? I know that a lot of us are up here in Northern California. But yeah, it's not something that you want to go through.
I saw footage in, I think it was San Bernardino County, where firefighters were in this area that I don't know if it was a former burn zone or what, but all of a sudden there was a debris flow.
Yes.
And this massive mudslide came rushing down, and it looked like a mud river all of a sudden with
and it moves
trees
quick.
and debris. Yeah, it moved really fast. And firefighters were running like for safety. It's pretty scary.
Yeah. And again, LA Unified School District, it's the nation's second largest school district, is closed today. So as they clean up, we will definitely be following it. But and again, that earthquake was not devastating. It was just something, and the tornado warning, it was just something to add on to everything else that was happening to Southern California this weekend. All right, moving on. Former President Trump, he says, I will not participate in this week's GOP primary debate, and he says he's not going to participate in any of them. Now, is this smart, or does it make him look like he's scared? You guys let me know in the comments, because here's the thing. He is significantly ahead. Let's see. The new CBS poll has him leading 62%, above 46 points above DeSantis. And then obviously Ramaswamy is 7%. Pence is 5%. Tim Scott, 3%. Nikki Haley, 2%. Chris Christie, 2%. And Asa Hutchinson is at 1%. But Asa Hutchinson is the one that was saying, I'm going to take on Trump, whether he's on the stage or not. Here he is. This is on MSNBC. Here you go.
You and Chris Christie, at least, have a theory of the case, right? Donald Trump, the front runner, is unfit for office. He shouldn't be the president. And also, he's a political liability. I think both you and Christie think he's actually not a strong nominee. Okay, fine. The problem is Republicans don't seem to want to hear that. Like the vast majority of the base, right? So, I mean, like our viewers might like that, but like they're probably not voting in the Republican primary. The question is like, how do you make that case to the people that most need to hear it?
Well, great question. And of course, I'm in Iowa, and the sense I get in Iowa is that Donald Trump is in the default position right now until they decide where they want to go as to the best alternative. The debate will play a key role in that. But let me assure you that the Iowans that I talk to recognize if we're going to win, we've got to go in a different direction. There's too much smoke there.
There's too much smoke there. So let me know in the comments. I want to get to Kim's news. But what do you think? Should former President Trump still debate? Now, I think he should debate. One, because he's facing all of these charges. He may not be able to run properly, right? I mean, you want to hear from the person that's running for president. And here's an interesting question from Randy. Now, Randy asks, is Biden going to debate his declared opponents? Biden's already the nominee. I mean, he's the incumbent. He is the Democratic nominee, unless, obviously we still have to have the primary or what have you, but it's not the same kind of question for the opponent as it is the GOP does not have their nominee. Does that make sense? Right? I mean, to me, it just seems like we already know Biden is going to be the Democratic candidate.
Yeah, he doesn't have to debate.
He doesn't have to debate. There is no official Republican nominee because they haven't had the primary yet. So I don't know. I mean, it just seems to me that him debating RFK, which I'm assuming is who you're asking about, or Marianne Williamson. I mean, to me, it doesn't seem like the same kind of question, but maybe it is. Maybe Biden should be debating. Like, what are you afraid of? Is it ever a good idea to say no to the debate? So you guys let me know in the comments, because I just feel like this is something where Trump has so many legal issues. he needs to be on that debate stage and challenge, because I don't know if he's necessarily going to be able to. I mean, he might get the nomination, but running against Biden and winning, the GOP has a huge problem on their hands. All right, we'll do some of Kim's news. We'll discuss a little bit more of Trump and the debate. I also, by the way, want to talk about the fact that Elon Musk wants to get rid of the block button. I don't understand why. He says it doesn't make sense. I don't really use the block button. I use the mute button a lot, but you guys let me know what you think about that. And of course, we will also touch on the woman that was shot and killed over a pride flag. I just don't understand what this world is coming to. It's a freaking flag, people. Drives me nuts. All right, here's Kim with some news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
It is the Nikki Medoro Show. Good morning to you. I am Kim McAllister, and let's start with the storms. Man, yeah, I think you're right, Nikki. A lot of people didn't really take it seriously, and then all of a sudden, where's the sandbags? Let's try to fix this. I just saw a text come by from Deidre, who was in San Diego at a campground, and it looks like that she may have had to leave the area as well. But yeah, right now, 25 million Americans are under flood warnings as remnants of Tropical Storm Hilary hit the Southwest, a post-tropical storm cyclone bringing heavy rainfall to the area. The storm system on the move several hundred miles north of San Diego, passing through central Nevada at about 29 miles per hour. The rainfall totals are in from Tropical Storm Hilary. They have been tallied, and this was a significant amount of precipitation for some areas. The mountains lead the way, big numbers. Mount San Jacinto above Palm Springs, 11.6 inches of rain. Upper Mission Creek near Big Bear, 13.5 inches. Malibu Hills area, 4.5 inches of rain, and downtown Los Angeles, about 2.5. Typical rain for August in Southern California, 0. So this is kind of a big thing. Even Death Valley saw 3 inches of rain and some flooding as well. In some areas, they're saying this is a year's worth of rain in pretty much 24 hours. So,
oh yeah, I mean, it is. I think they were saying that about Palm Springs. Yeah. They don't even see this much rain in an entire year. That's yeah. And somebody just in the Chris says one day isn't worth sandbagging for. It is if your entire house gets flooded.
That's right. I mean, tell it to the people at that garage. Look at the water line.
Exactly. Like, maybe we should.
We're going to take the sandbags. Thanks for your advice, though.
Yeah.
Right. Meanwhile, at the airport, the slowdown, 1,000 flights, more than 1,000 canceled yesterday because of Tropical Storm Hilary on the West Coast. That, according to Flight Aware, more than 1,100 flights delayed within, into, or out of the United States on Monday. Meanwhile, close to 300 flights have been canceled today. So the delays at the airport still ongoing. And today, speaking of air travel, President Biden heads over to Maui. This is the shot of the church burning in Lahaina. But yeah, President Biden will be headed to survey the destruction caused by the deadly wildfire there. The president set to announce the appointment of a federal coordinator who will be overseeing the long-term recovery efforts on the island. The coordinator will be responsible for making sure those impacted by the disaster do have access to federal resources. And as you just mentioned, here he is, Trumpety trumpeter, Trump.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick.
He is popular among likely Republican caucus goers in Iowa. There's a new NBC News Des Moines Register MediaCom poll. A lot of people working together there on this one. It shows 42% of those surveyed said the former president would be their first choice for president. 42%. What in the ever-loving world
they
are you
have
thinking?
No other candidate. That's what blows my mind. You're telling me that a guy with up to his eyeballs legal troubles, I don't care if you buy it or not, he is still facing these problems. He is still facing these cases. This is the guy that you have to have in office. I don't understand. It's so annoying.
19% said the same of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. So 42% to 19%. Despite being indicted 4 times, you're sticking with him.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right, then. You do you, I guess. Oh, it's hard to see this one. Kind of a fuzzy picture. But yeah, weekend of violence in Milwaukee. 24 people were shot. Milwaukee police say 24 people were shot between late Friday and Sunday night. That tally includes a shooting that left 9 people wounded Saturday and then a quadruple shooting yesterday. So a lot of gunfire in Milwaukee. And as you had mentioned, Nikki, Elon Musk is saying X users will no longer be able to block accounts except for in private messages. So he wrote in a post on Friday announcing the key safety feature would be eliminated. Musk has made big changes since he acquired Twitter last year for $44 billion, laying off employees, reinstating banned accounts, most rebranding it recently as X. He didn't give a reason for getting rid of the block function or say when it would take effect. He did say the mute function will continue to be available. So there's that. In Novato, a grocery store remains closed because of a rodent problem. The Lucky Supermarket on Grant Avenue won't be open today, could be closed further into the week. The store was shuttered back on Friday because of rodent infestation. There are big
Ooh.
signs on the door saying, nope, nobody. Public health officials say they'd received multiple complaints from customers seeing rodent droppings in the store before it was closed down. Well, that makes you feel real comfortable buying whatever it is. Yeah, no. More than 3,000 movie theaters across the country will be offering discounted tickets this Sunday in honor of National Cinema Day. All movies in all formats will cost less than $4. That includes Oppenheimer in IMAX if showtimes aren't already sold out. So it's a big movie discount day. Woohoo.
That's nice. I like that. I always love a discount. There you go.
It's a sale, a movie sale. Everything
you get a
must
movie.
go.
You
I
get
don't
a
know.
movie.
Wow. I don't know if that would get me to the movies. I mean, if there was something I wanted to see, I guess, but then also you have to think, well, if there's offering tickets for, such a low price, then it's going to be packed, right?
Yeah, and I guess so you still consider that when you go see a movie?
Whether it's going to be jammed? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
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 I mean, I don't want to go when it's, every seat is full. No.
I can't even remember the last time I went to a movie and it was that full. Maybe it's because I don't actually see movies. Like even when I saw Barbie, it wasn't that packed, but I also went to a very small theater. And it wasn't every seat full. I think they maybe had 30 seats in the whole theater.
Yeah. I don't know.
That'll do that.
Lastly, donating to help the victims of the wildfires in Maui on everyone's minds right now, including big corporations. Hormel Foods Corporation and the makers of Spam are sending resources to aid in the disaster relief efforts. The company's sending 5 truckloads of Spam products, including more than 260,000 cans of Spam. Hormel also creating a t-shirt which says Spam loves Maui. All the proceeds of it will be donated to the Aloha United Way's Maui Fire Relief Fund. And still, at least 111 people are confirmed dead in what has become the deadliest wildfire in modern U.S. history. And again, President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are headed to the islands today. This report is crowdfunded, which means we do rely on you. Thank you for anything you can do for us. Check us out at thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. Patreon link and PayPal links are there, as well as some other fun stuff for you to see. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. All right. So before Kim's news, I was asking a basic question about Trump. Like Kim also mentioned in her news, he's not going to debate. And here's my question. Should he? I mean, it does kind of make sense that if you are up by such a big amount, why the hell would you debate? On the other hand, wouldn't you, maybe this is just me because I want to see him get in more trouble because he can't keep his mouth shut and just going to get him into another legal problem. But wouldn't you want to defend yourself? You know a debate is going to happen where you are going to be a topic of conversation. They're going to talk about your legal problems, and they're going to talk about the fact that you're unfit, at the very least, because you don't have the time to focus on the country because you're too focused, of course, on things that are happening for you personally. Now, I just feel like if your name is going to be mentioned, you should be there. Eric says it's actually pretty smart of him, despite the fact that it gives people at the debate the opportunity to talk about the fact that he's not there. They're still talking about him then and not himself. And that's true. Liz says he doesn't know how to debate. He only knows how to bash others. That's what I want to hear. I actually, on the flip side of him not being there, I hope that the moderators ask issue-oriented questions that don't have to do with Trump, right? What specifically will you do about X, Y, and Z? Not having Trump there actually leaves room to have an actual question answered, hopefully, fully. Because I want to know the details. I want to know, what really is your plan besides I'm just not going to do what Biden did. Square says Democrats have to do the same. Don't vote for spoilers. I'm assuming you're talking about RFK. I was talking with somebody a Saturday at the block party, and they just threw out RFK's name. This guy got an interview with RFK, and I'm like, and you can, you could be interested in. I just feel like he is. If anything, it's going to be a spoiler type of thing, but. But then Square says, Dems, don't vote your conscience, follow your party. I don't know if you're being sarcastic there. My conscience does not tell me to vote for RFK or Marianne Williamson. It tells me to vote for a president who's actually done a lot of the things he promised to do. He did not have a perfect presidency. No president has. But if you want to talk about a candidate or a president that made promises, that has tried his hardest to fulfill them, and by the way, has his opponents going back to their own states, touting money they received on bills they voted against. That always seems to happen with this Republican Party. They vote against the things that the American people actually want, and then have the audacity to act like they had any way, shape, or form a role in getting that money, getting that support, getting that service back. It's BS. And again, I constantly say this. The Republican Party is the party of bitchers and moaners, but no ideas of their own. All they say is we're not going to be like the Democrats. We're not going to be like, okay, what are you going to do to have this solution to this problem that Americans are facing, right? And then they pick and choose. It's like, if it was under Trump, it was like, for instance, inflation or the debt or supply chain issues. If it happened under Trump, because of COVID. But if it's still happening under Biden, COVID can't even be brought up. It's just really ridiculous. Let's see. Let me read some of those. Eric says Trump probably won't even debate Biden this time around. He probably won't. And again, Biden can debate. I really do. I'm not scared of Biden debating RFK. Not at all. If Biden wanted to, he totally could.
Is it unpresidential for President Biden to debate former President Trump? Given all the legal issues and everything that Trump is facing, would it be beneath Biden to step on a stage with such a fool?
If Trump's the nominee, though? I think that maybe a debate should happen. I mean, again,
we don't know what Trump stands for. I mean,
exactly.
It's not like we really need to see a debate.
Right. That's true. I mean, it's just going to be a show, just like it was last time.
Yeah.
Karen says Biden, on the other hand, should not. Why give RFK legs? Why give him visibility? No need to. RFK is a joke. He's an anti-vaxxer and a nut. So some people like him. But again, I do honestly believe that Biden does not need to debate because he is the incumbent. That is the main reason. I think Democrats support him overwhelmingly. And it's not like the Republicans. Biden is the incumbent. The Republicans are trying to find a candidate, and they apparently can't see any farther than Trump. And again, and I'm going to bring in, the Elon Musk thing. But hold on, I have one more picture. I wanted to show this picture. This is another good one, Kim, for you to hold in your arsenal. He looks like such a child right there. That is former President Trump pouting because, he obviously can't handle debating. And he's probably pissed off. If I was former President Trump, I'd be pissed off too. But look, you should have to debate. That's all I'm saying. You should have to debate.
When the candidates get up, and Christie is going to goad him,
Oh,
and he's going to
God,
get up there
yeah.
and he's going to say he's a coward. He's too scared to show up.
Yes.
That yellow-bellied, whatever.
Mhm.
And Trump is just going to be seething and mad because I don't think it's Trump that doesn't want to go. I think it's his lawyers saying, you can't show up. They're going to talk about stuff that you can't talk about.
Right.
You need to, you need to close your mouth. So I'm sure this is hard for him because the thing he wants to do is show up in all his glory and spout off from the mouth.
Yeah, he's freaking ridiculous. Now, again, this is also a different time. I think the things that made Trump popular, right? That whole tell it like it is kind of shock value. And I know that I might be biased when I say this, but I think it's just getting old. It's like the whole witch hunt thing and, all the nicknames that he has for people. It's back in 2016, it was like, oh my God. Now it's just, okay, already. You're a child. It's not the same thing, and we're not living in the same world. So I don't know if the same type of rhetoric that he has failed to move away from is going to carry the same weight with people. Now, Mario was saying, I hope the high poll numbers are a trick, like when BTS supporters made him think that his rally was going to be huge. You'll remember, like, they kind of not bought up because they were free tickets, but they kind of reserved all these tickets. And then there's like a bunch of no-shows because young voters are going to save this country. I don't know. I feel like when they do these polls, it's really MAGA type of people that are going to support him. And people that dislike Democrats or hate Biden. So, we're going to have to see how much it holds up. I still think he doesn't have the time to run for president, let alone be president. I just do not. And the fact that he's been reinstated on Twitter/X, right? But he's not using it because he has his own Truth Social. I do think that could also play a role. I'm not on Truth Social. I don't know how many of you are, but that's just not a platform that I want to be on. It's a hellscape, but Twitter is becoming that as well.
Did you just call it a hellscape?
Yeah, it's awful. I mean, honestly, I go on Twitter like this weekend to find videos of the hurricane and people posting it like that. I go on it for something specific. Spending my time randomly on it, that doesn't happen anymore. And now with this Elon Musk saying no more blocking, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. But did you see this story? So Elon Musk is debating James Woods over the block button. James Woods was not happy about it. Woods opposed the idea, went on X saying that if the block feature is removed, he'll have no choice but to retire from this site. And so I guess they go back and forth over it. James Wood writes, in the midst of a libel suit, I was targeted by 30 trolls. The defendant enlisted to harass me. X will be untenable for people like me who are willing to share their identities. If he does this, I'll have no choice but to retire from this site. And then he got some pushback. And then Elon Musk did what? Blocked him. Elon Musk, in a debate over the block button, blocked James Woods from his own profile.
So ridiculous.
So again, obviously Musk sees a need for it. I don't block people. I mute people because I like the idea of them yelling into the ether on social media at me and me never seeing it. But I also don't spend that much time on the platform anymore. Again, because all the changes that Musk has made recently are not making the platform a place you can trust, in all honesty. I mean, you don't know, you buy some money or you give them what, $8 for that verification. You could be anybody you want to. Now you can't even block people. Okay. So Vilma says, Nikki, you don't seem to want information. You want Trump to entertain you. No, I don't want Trump at all. In all honesty, if you're talking about during the debate, do I want information from Trump? I don't think he has any. It would shock me if former President Trump had any sort of information whatsoever. John says, James Woods doesn't want to hear from people who call him badass crazy. People are blocked from Woods' account that simply disagree with him. Woods has tender ears. I have been blocked. I've told you that, right? That my most famous blocking.
Who blocked you?
Scott Baio.
I think you did tell me that. Yeah, that's good. Scott Baio is not a Madorable.
No, funny. He is not a Madorable. He totally blocked my ass. So I found that I'm like, I am a nobody. So is he, but you know what I'm saying? It's not like I was on, Happy Days or whatever.
That's
But
funny.
yeah, it was funny to be blocked by him. Whenever I find out that I'm blocked, like if I go to a site, if I found out I was blocked, I always want to know why. What
Right.
was it? What did I tweet? So I do know this, and I've said this before too. A guy from, was it The Deadliest Catch? Yeah, one of the captains from The Deadliest Catch blocked me, and it was because I had compared him because he looked like this other character in a movie, and it was not a nice tweet. I was making a joke, and it didn't go over well, so he blocked me, and I totally understand why he blocked me. He did not get the joke. Fine, whatever.
But don't you think though, with that kind of joke, it's it's better to just chuckle at it or make your own joke. It would actually be more newsworthy and funny, and then move on.
Yes, I don't know. Like but it was not a nice joke. I shouldn't have made it, and he blocked me, and it's fine. I wasn't following him, I basically followed him to make the joke, so it wasn't too big of a deal. But I would say the problem of having to block people, and I don't understand only limiting it to DMs, direct messages. So you can't direct message me anymore, but you could post hateful content for the world to see. That seems, well, and I kind of do that on my Facebook page, my Nikki Medoro Facebook page. I don't let people send me direct messages anymore because I was getting a lot of really annoyingly critical, mean, misogynistic, private messages. And I'm like, you know what? If you're going to say all that to me, you could say it to me publicly. And amazingly, Kim, it stopped. So I don't really get messages like that anymore because people are honestly embarrassed if they have to post it for the world to see. Now, of course, I'll probably get like 10 of them now. But yeah, if you're going to say something hateful, sexist or whatever, you're going to have to do it for the world to see, for your mama to see, to judge you publicly. Let's see. Perry says celebrities are mostly overpaid narcissists. Well, yes, absolutely. John says James Woods unblocked me when I asked him to because I like to hear what he says about movies and the people he worked with. Well, that was very nice. I mean,
the question is, why did he block you in the first place?
Right. Well, what did you do, John? Kim says at one point, I felt like 90% of my job was blocking troll accounts. It was nonstop. If you're a public figure or even a private citizen being harassed, you need the block button because of trolls. Yeah. It sucks. It sucks that people these kind of keyboard trolls that won't show their face. And I feel like if you're going to be an asshat online, you need to let the whole world see it. I feel like that's the fairest thing that people can do. Because screw that. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And it does protect people. I mean, if you're getting harassed simply for, I don't know, stating your viewpoint and you don't want to hear from the trolls anymore, that should be your right. Because we live in very divided times. I mean, the polarization in this country, I always try to tell myself, this isn't new, right? Maybe the issue, the focus of the harassment, the targets might have changed. But it's not as if we haven't seen certain groups discriminated against or hated on or anything like that, right? Now, some people blame Trump and his presidency for kind of giving rise again, letting all these kind of bigots and racists come out of the closet and start saying all these things out loud because their president did. Did you see, Kim, that he was talking about the rigged election? And he was calling people that he believes rigged the election riggers. And people are saying, you mean the N-word when he says something like that. Like he's because, the poll workers were black women, some of them,
when I read that story on Friday, you have to be very careful not to,
not to say the N-word. Right.
Well, it's not that you want to say the N-word, but if you you stumble over it or something, God forbid.
Right.
I have to tell you something about the N-word.
Okay.
I'm reading my son this Hardy Boys book called The House on a Cliff.
Okay.
So we're reading it. And I mean, you think the Hardy Boys is kind of like a kid's book or at least a young
boys book or girls book. Yeah.
And so it's written in 1929 called The House on the Cliff.
Okay.
And we're about halfway through. I'm reading, and all of a sudden the N-word pops up. Because of
what context?
It was N in a woodpile reference. It was a cliche that was used. The N-word was used as part of the cliche.
I've never
Yeah.
heard that term. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it means, well, I think it means that that somehow in your ancestry you have some type of African American descent, right? That's what, but then the cliche is taken to mean other things. Anyway, it was
Okay.
1929 and they thought nothing of using the N-word in a kid's book. And so it caught me by surprise. And I'm
Yeah, I would
reading,
too.
and
Me too.
I'm always looking a little bit ahead. So I kind of stumble a little bit and I like substitute a word. But I thought about it all night long. And then finally I'm thinking, I guess he's 9 years old and it's time to teach him that word because
Right.
if it's ever used anywhere else, he needs to understand we don't say it. Right.
Right.
And I kind of like that that word wasn't even in his knowledge base, that he didn't even
Right. Well, of
know it.
course. Yeah.
But then and now we have to, so we sat him down last night, my husband and I, and even after I had, extracted the word from the sentence as I read aloud,
So you didn't say it.
I didn't say it.
What did you say? Did you say N-word? Did you just not say anything?
I said, I think I just changed the phrase of the sentence to say there was a problem. I said there was a problem and then kept moving on.
Alarms.
Lord, what happened there? And I'm like, holy God, thank God I'm the one reading this book. Because if he had been reading it and didn't understand the context of the word, God forbid he goes to school and uses a word he just read in the Hardy Boys book or something. So
Exactly.
yeah, so we had to sit him down and explain what the N-word was and how hurtful it was and how we don't ever use that word and whatever else. But what a shocker to see that in the Hardy Boys mystery. Anyway.
Ron said, I had a client tell me a joke using that reference, Kim, and I had to look it up. I lent him money and he was comfortable telling me that quote unquote joke.
Ooh,
Doesn't
yeah.
that, Ron, and let me just ask you, that's the thing that blows my mind with some people. It's kind of the, you want to ask them, what is it about me that made you think that I was okay with you using that word? Right?
Right.
Like, what makes you think that I am the type of company? And I'm not saying this about you, Ron, but this is always what I like. No, this is not a company where that word is used ever. Eric says the same thing. When I was working retail, a customer service dropped the phrase N-word rigged and just walked away. Like,
Like what you
it's
did, you didn't just
crazy.
drop a bomb at my feet and then turn and run? No.
Right, exactly.
No.
Now, yes, we know that Mark Twain uses the N-word, right? And Huck Finn, right?
Okay, so and I we were talking about that Huckleberry Finn versus a Hardy Boys mystery.
Mhm.
In Huckleberry Finn, the word is part of the story. It's in context of a
Yes.
historical thing that happened. I don't think I would have taken that out. I would have gone into that story knowing it comes, explaining it, talking about it, the ugliness of the time. That book is about the racism, right?
Mhm.
But the Hardy Boys
It
is
just
nothing
like
to
threw
do
it
with
in there.
They
Yeah.
just dropped it in like it was nothing. Like it was
But
not
1929,
it's not
right?
part of the
Like,
story. Yeah.
yeah.
So now I'm like, because you pass on books and things. Do I scratch it out? I think yes.
No.
I
Do
don't
not
know.
scratch it out.
Okay, here's why. Because it's a kid's book. It's a children's story.
Yes. In all honesty, Kim, and I mean this, I know your heart is in the right place. Do
Yeah.
not do that. You teach like you did. Take the moment as a learning
Yeah.
lesson because
Yeah.
you know what? There are kids much younger than your son that are
Mhm.
called that name.
Yeah,
So
it's
if
true.
those young kids can
Yeah.
live in a world where some people feel comfortable using that word to them, your son is old enough to understand that that word exists. It's
Right.
used in literature and, we don't use that word out loud, but it is something
Right.
that needs to be. No, do not do that. No, at least that's my opinion. You know what I mean? Now, Chris always brings up the talking point that yes,
Mhm.
the N word is used in like every rap song. Oh, I don't know why my phone is ringing on my computer, but okay. Sorry, that happened in my ear. It is used. I will tell you this: when I listen to rap songs, if I happen to know the rap lyrics, I am not saying that word, even if I'm
No.
rapping to the rest of it. So,
And whether you like the word or not, there's something to the people that were so hurt by it, are so
using it.
hurt by it, taking
Yeah.
ownership of it
Right.
and using it the way they want to. And if that's something that they'd like to do, then far be it from me to say whether anyone can or cannot. I can just tell my son, we don't.
And again, there's a difference between ending it in an A and an ER. There just is. Not that I would use either one.
Yeah, I'm not going there.
For black people, they do consider there's a difference between it ending in an A and ending it in the ER. And that's for them to decide. I, again, don't use either. So I don't really feel like, unless you're black, you should have any sort of opinion, except I don't use that word. That's my opinion.
That's right.
And that's the safest way of doing it. Right. I mean, and again, going back to, blocking people and protecting yourself. That's why it's dangerous to not give people the power to block people on social media if they want to. He's just giving people a reason not to be on the platform. I feel like Elon Musk. It's just, oh, and John, that is actually no, wait, where was it? Oh, Lori, sorry. No offense, John. Lori said, I strongly encourage you to buy the episodes of Blackish that address this and look at it to use and meaning through the eyes of 3 different generations. I know exactly what you're talking about. I have watched it. And it's very, very interesting. It was like the grandfather, the father, and then the young son, right? And how their opinions on the use of that word matter. And people's opinions about the use of the word have changed. Richard Pryor, late comedian, iconic comedian, he has done jokes and spoken about how he used that word so much, early on in his life, and then made a different choice later on in his life. But again, I am not in a position to dictate how other people, black people, use that word. I stay the hell out of that. Absolutely. Okay, we got to talk about the woman. We have time. I just, when I read this story and then I watched the news report on it, all I keep thinking of is it's a flag. It's a flag. It's a symbol of inclusivity. It is a symbol that says you're welcome here. It is a symbol of acceptance. It is a symbol that's not hurting anybody. Yeah. But a woman and a man are now dead over this flag. I'll play you a little bit of a news report. And now you guys tell me, what does it mean when things like this happen? Do you even understand or comprehend how it could escalate so far? And have you witnessed something similar? Here again is the report of a woman killed over a pride flag.
66-year-old Laura Ann Carleton shot and killed Friday outside the clothing store she owns near Lake Arrowhead. Law enforcement says the suspect made several disparaging remarks about a rainbow flag that stood outside the store. The armed suspect, who has not been identified, then fled on foot. When authorities confronted him a few miles away, he was armed with a handgun. A lethal force encounter occurred, and the suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. Carleton, known as Lori by her friends, was an advocate of the LGBTQ community. Friends say this was not the only time her flag had been targeted, writing on social media that in the past, when someone took down her flag or vandalized it, she put up another one.
New folks moving into town, new couples, new LGBTQ families, they were concerned about moving up here. And we hear stories about them driving by her store and seeing the flags and feeling so welcome. They immediately felt the acceptance and were no longer afraid to be up here. And Lori did that for them.
Carleton leaves behind her husband and blended family with 9 children. The memorial now growing outside her store.
I hope people realize that you don't have to be gay to be killed because there's a rainbow flag. This was a straight white woman with children.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know why they're not identifying the shooter. I know there's a lot of people that are really curious on who this person was. It will eventually come out. I can't imagine that they're not going to identify this person unless it's, I don't know. There's no reason why the person wouldn't be identified. It just, again, like that guy just said, you don't have to be gay to be killed by bigots.
No,
you don't. And I don't understand, this narrative of it's being shoved down my throat. Everywhere you look, there's flags. Jordan Klepper, who's on the Daily Show often, he goes to these Trump rallies all the time.
Yeah, I love him.
I love him. He's so great. And he did this one bit where they were talking about like the pride flags and all these sorts of things. And he's at a Trump rally where people are Trump flags, Trump hats, everything. They're like, and these Trumpers, it's like it's all being shoved down your throat with the flags and the T-shirts and everything, and they're not even noticing that they're doing the exact same thing, which was the funny joke about the whole thing. And he's like, it's like their personality, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm not saying that it's the same, because being a supporter of a marginalized group, right? A historically marginalized group, not a freaking Trump idiot supporter, okay? Like, you're not being marginalized. You're the one putting yourself out there with your stupid Trump flag and your MAGA hat and all that kind of crap. Being able to feel welcome in a store at a time when the U.S. Supreme Court is allowing business owners to, in my opinion, discriminate against those is just awful. And so if I was a business owner living in a town where there probably are a number of people that are anti-LGBTQ, and just putting up a little small symbol like "You're welcome here,"
right?
You don't feel, you don't have to worry that when you step in here, I'm going to be judging you, right? Or making, rude comments. It's sad that we don't understand what that flag means. It's not being shoved down your throat. It is a message to groups that are being targeted that you're welcome and safe here, right? I mean, I feel like this program is another way of expressing that. Like, you're free to be who you are here.
I have a kind of an extended family. It's like, it's see if I can explain this. My stepmother's sister's kids.
Your stepmother's sister's kids. Okay.
Okay. So they live in, I think, Santa Clarita, somewhere in Southern California. That's very kind of known to be a conservative area. And they have put it's a kind of a traditional family, a husband, a wife, and 2 kids. But they put a rainbow flag outside their house because they want people to feel welcome and comfortable, and they want to show support and be allies. Well, it's been stolen out of their front yard repeatedly. They have to keep replacing the flag, and they have the saga of this rainbow flag up on Facebook. So they're talking about, how awful it is, how somebody in their neighborhood is so bigoted, and over and over and over again. But here's what I think has come to a head now is, if someone is angry enough to go onto your property and rip that flag down, are they angry enough to do what they did to this woman? And so then does it become, a question of the safety of you and your children if you decide to display this flag? And I know that it's letting people that are ugly hearted win, right? To not have it. But you also have to think about your kids. And so is this what we've come to, where expressing an opinion, you can be killed for that?
Yep.
That's America. That's America. I thought we were all free to say whatever we wanted to say. Of course, we face the consequences we face, but death?
Death shouldn't be one. Death
Gunfire?
should not be one.
Come on.
And again, what are you saying when you are expressing yourself, right? Are you expressing hate? I mean, what is Lori saying with the flag versus what that guy was saying to her? Both free to say it, right? Lori is saying, you, human being who loves differently than I love, you are welcome here because love is love.
Right.
This suspect, who's now dead over this, is ripping down the flag, saying God knows what hateful stuff about the LGBTQ community. It's not the same message. It's not the same message. Now, Perry Joe, you have an interesting comment here. Perry Joe writes, yes, I have liberal friends that can be very obnoxious. I can see how they can upset the crazies out there, and so many are armed. In what way? Is this the answer? Constantly adding to the LGBTQIA plus? That's the annoying part. Okay. I'm gonna do a scale of annoying things. Adding letters to be more inclusive, which yes, I can understand I understand the jokes, right? The alphabet people. That's what they say.
After a while, it gets too long, and it's like, okay.
You know what? Let's be fair. Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, it's like, how many more letters are we going to add? I understand the joke, but to be so angry about it that you become violent, like, ignore it. I do not care that much. Who cares? Who cares? It's not enough to pick up a gun and shoot somebody.
No.
Not enough to do that. I just don't feel like we're talking about the same thing. One side is talking about hating, discriminating, kicking people out, not doing business with, simply because other people are minding their own damn business and just want to love who they love and live their lives. Not the same fight, right? It's just not. One wants to take away the rights and freedoms of people. The other just want to be left the hell alone. That's literally all they want. I want to get married. I want to have a family. And that's it. That's all I want to do. The other people are like, nope, you can't do that around me. And yeah, John says, you have effing idiots thinking the LGBTQ community is quote unquote grooming kids. That's why you get people violently attacking them. Yeah. They think they're going after kids. They ignore the Catholic Church though. Yeah. And I was going to talk about this later. I mean, how many stories do you see just recently in my neck of the woods? Valley Christian High School, a teacher paying students to send him naked videos and photos. And you're paying to send your kid to that freaking school because you think it's going to be safer, right? St. Ignatius in San Francisco, right? Caught up in their own scandal as well. It's as if it has nothing to do with the LGBTQ community and has everything to do with sexual predators. It doesn't matter their orientation, right?
But
so
this is why words matter. This is why, you think, they're just, using words against trans people, or they're just, it's just a bunch of rhetoric, until it isn't, and until the guns come out, and until people are, inspired to open fire. And then the words become something that stirred up violence. I think you really got to watch it.
Perry Joe says, I got jumped on by a liberal friend for calling young women girls. Mm-hmm. That's odd. I'll give you that. That's odd. Like, I don't understand. There can be a bit of, Nit says the best. That's somebody going overboard. I'm over 60. Call me a girl anytime. They clearly have nothing else to worry about. Must be nice. Yeah, I feel like, and sometimes I wonder, obviously it happened to you, Perry Joe, and that obviously is a specific case. But sometimes I feel like people hear stories like that and then adopt them as their own, right? Like, oh my God, I heard this one story from one person that it happened to, and now everybody's going that far. Your liberal friend was taking it, in my opinion, a bit too far. Now, I understand we're trying to be respectful, use people's proper pronouns, care about people's identity, because it's not difficult. It's really not difficult to ask people their pronouns. I don't know. Do they do it at your school, Kim? When they ask the kids about themselves, are they asking their pronouns?
I haven't come across that yet.
Oh yeah.
But I see a lot of emails from teachers that say, note their pronouns at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the teachers do. Okay. Yeah. So my daughter, it's kind of this, tell me about yourself. What are your likes? What are your interests? And it says name. And then some of them say nickname, like, what do you want to be called in class? Right. And then what pronouns do you want to use?
Yeah.
There's one joke. I don't know why this parent did this to this poor kid, because the kid looked like he was in high school, like really old to be confused by this. Oh, I wish I had the video, and it just popped in my head because we were talking about it. So she's like, okay, so tell me what happened. It's a mom recording her son. And she's like, so tell me what happened in class today. And the boy's like, well, the teacher was asking everybody what their pronouns were. And he's all, I said, boy. And she's like, no. And then he still didn't get it. Like, she's like, do you know what pronouns are? And he had no idea what pronoun. Like,
oh, that's funny.
This is really sad. You're too old to not know what actual pronouns are. It's like, but it was really, really funny. He's like, oh no, I'm the boy. And she's like, no, he, him. He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, freaking. But yeah, this is really just living in a more inclusive society. Let me just put a fine point on this. It's just being accepting. And just because you accept people and I will say this, doesn't necessarily mean that it aligns with everything in your life. Right? I understand that some people choose a religion which can be interpreted to mean that they get to discriminate against other people. I understand that we live in a world like that. I understand that we live in a world, and this is my opinion now, where people will pick and choose parts of their religion so that they can hide behind it instead of understanding that they're being bigoted. I understand that. And that's just living in a society with people with different thoughts and belief systems and personalities and all that crap. Okay. I get it. But they should just live that way themselves, right? If you believe that all gay people are going to hell, and so then I guess you are not going to be gay for yourself, right? Like, I don't know what else to say, but gay people exist. It's not a choice. It's who they are. Okay. People make a choice about their religion. You're choosing, in my opinion, to pick and choose. And I say pick and choose often because there are so many things, especially growing up Catholic, that you can point to the Bible that would make it so you are so inclusive to everybody. Okay. But you're choosing not to pick and choose those parts of the Bible. You are choosing to pick and choose parts of the Bible that let you discriminate. And that I have a problem with. Okay. That I have a problem with. And yeah, it pisses me off. It really does. It makes me very upset that if you had a choice between being inclusive and loving and being bigoted, some people choose being bigoted and then blame their religion for it. It's just BS. It's absolutely BS. And so just love each other. Don't kill each other over a friggin' flag. Mind your, keep your eyes on your own paper, as Kim loves to say, and just live the life you want to live the way you want to live it. Other people are going to live their lives the way they want to live it. All right. Coming up after Kim's headlines, I want to talk about technology, and I'll read some of your comments also as well while Kim does the headlines. But I want to talk about robotaxis. I don't understand the idea of robotaxis. Somebody, and I forget, it's back in the comments, someone saying, well, who asked for Uber or Lyft? I'll tell you this, me. Like, Uber and Lyft is one thing. Uber and Lyft, are you telling me I don't have to drive home from the bar drunk, right? I don't have to even worry about drunk drivers. Are you telling me that I could be picked up in like moments and not have to wait a half an hour for a taxi? That addressed a need. Believe me, when I used Lyft for the very first time, mind blown. I know where I was. I know the exact situation I was in, and it was perfect. So yes, I think Uber, Lyft, yes. Robotaxis? Why? That is my question. What problem are robotaxis solving for society? Tell me in the comments, because I don't get it. I don't understand why we have to have them, especially given the amount of problems that we have been seeing on the roads because of Cruise and Waymo and all these robotaxis. Okay. So you guys let me know what problem these companies and this technology is solving, because I don't think it's needed at all. I don't think it's needed at all. We'll talk about that. Please, you guys, click the thumbs up button to show your support of the show. And here's Kim with some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And we're back to Southern California, where about 25 million people actually are under flood warnings as this tropical storm Hilary moves through the southwest. The storm system passing through central Nevada at about 29 miles per hour right now. At this rate, Hilary is forecast to lose steam and dissipate before the end of the day. Sayonara, Hilary. The heavy rain, though, courtesy of Tropical Storm Hilary, transformed what was usually a pretty dry August day into a region of wet wonders in Los Angeles. They had video taken from a helicopter showing Dodger Stadium. Here you can see it. Kind of looking a bit like an island, right?
Wow.
In the middle of a lake. The aerial video makes it look like the water was several feet deep. It was about an inch-ish of water, but from the sky, it looks pretty like islandy, right?
Yeah.
Interesting photo. Also, Ventura County continues to feel aftershocks of this magnitude 5.1 earthquake. The initial earthquake hit yesterday afternoon about 2:45. It was centered 4 miles southeast of Ojai. There have been at least 17 aftershocks in all, some in the threes. So they've had some, big aftershocks over there. No reports of any death or major damage there, but it did come as the same time as the hurricane was passing through. So, yeah. Back to Maui. the missing list as the search continues through the rubble is 850 now. 850 people believed to be missing after the wildfires on Maui. That, according to a new FBI vetted list. The number was recently believed to be as high as 2,000. But again, the FBI has gone through the list, verified locations of people, and it's down to 850. Still astronomical, but yeah, that's where we
Do
stand.
they have any sort, and I don't know if you know this, any sort of estimate of how long it's going to take before people can, I don't know, start rebuilding? I mean, it's like you don't want to build over bodies, right? I mean, they have
No,
to
they have
count
to
for
do
everybody, right?
they have to do a thorough search first.
Yeah.
So there's not going to be debris removal until the search is done. And the
Okay.
search, I think on Friday, it was 35% done. I don't know what the progress has been like over the weekend, but it's going to take a while for the search to be over.
Can we just add a little more to this conversation? Because, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I saw that you were having a conversation on social media regarding going back to Hawaii and
Yes.
supporting the businesses there.
Uh-huh.
And you're maintaining that we need to wait, obviously. And I think the person you were talking to, I forget who it was basically saying, no, but they need, it's like COVID all over again. The places on Maui, not other islands, but on Maui that were not touched by the wildfire are closing because nobody's there.
So initially the thought was cancel your vacation in the first month, the first month after the fire
Right.
or two, because we need all the Airbnbs and the hotels to house the people, the thousands of people that have lost their homes.
Right.
Now it seems to be that they're saying other parts of the island are open. So the Grand Wailea is opened, in the part of the island where you stayed.
Right.
Kihei side is open. There are other areas of Maui where they're saying no, go and visit. I don't know if I would, but I also want to support businesses. I'm more of a wait and seer. So if you had a trip planned, say in 3 months,
Okay.
then maybe I think I would, I think you have to look at what the governor's saying. And the governor did say there are other parts of the island that are open, but I would choose another island right
Yeah.
now. And I think most businesses in all of Hawaii are contributing to the efforts to help. I was talking to my mom about this and whether or not we should plan a trip to Maui. I haven't been there in a while, and my
Right.
family usually goes every summer, but I've had other things going on and, lost a job and what have you. And so I haven't been back. And she was saying, well, if we do go back, what does that trip look like? I mean, all of our
Mhm.
places that we love are gone. And that's
Yeah.
true, which is nothing compared to the loss of life and loss of property they faced. But I think any trip that I would take there has to include a volunteering
Oh,
element.
absolutely. And I love that you said that when we were talking about it last time, because apparently, I mean, I've been talking to my parents and we definitely want to go back next year, next summer. Now,
Mhm.
that's obviously a year from now, but they're not going to be anywhere close to being
No.
done with the cleanup, obviously. And so, absolutely, if and when we go back, I definitely want, and I'm assuming they're going to have all sorts of opportunities for people to help out. So,
I would think so, whether that's if you have construction experience or, bring your vest and help clear debris, or whether
or
it's
something. Yeah.
shelter or handing out, whatever needs to be handed out, or I don't know what it looks like. Maybe, volunteering at a humane shelter or an animal shelter. I don't know what it looks like, but I think that any trip I would take there would have to include my love for the place that was just destroyed.
Yeah,
That means
exactly.
volunteering. Now, if that's not your idea of a vacation and maybe you just wanna go spend some money there and help that way, I think within the next couple months, the opportunities will be open to do that. Right
Mhm.
now, I've heard conflicting reports. Some are saying businesses need you. On the other side of the island, it's open for business, and I've heard others say keep the housing and the hotels open for the people that need the support right now. So I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah, it's
I
a tough
just know
one.
that personally, I wouldn't feel comfortable frolicking in the beach 3
Exactly.
miles from where they're
Mhm.
still picking through the rubble for people. I
Exactly.
just I can't get that out of my
No.
mind,
Mm-mm.
and
Mm-mm.
I don't think that it's respectful to the people that passed away. So
and again, if you're going from the airport to a lot of these places, you're going to be driving through a lot of this destruction. And I don't know how you can drive through it and then just frolic in the ocean and not in some way contribute. I don't know.
Woohoo, let's go get a shave ice and look what's happening down the road.
I know.
But at the same time, and we heard one of our viewers who was there during the fire say that people are scared on the other side of the island. I think she was in either Paia or Makawao, and she said the business owners there were scared. They're thinking, here comes, COVID part 2 as far as what it's going to do to our business, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's a real conundrum. I don't know.
Square writes in, that is hollowed ground and should be treated as such, rebuilt as an infrastructure smart city with old appearance, new Lahaina. And then Natalie says someone's going to start a volunteer tourism travel agency company. Focus there.
That would be smart.
That would be, I mean, because I think that there's so many people just wanting to do what you're talking about, Kim. They're like, how can I support the businesses and also, understand and contribute to the rebuilding? And Kim says, I've seen locals say, stay home, stop posting your photos. It's offensive right now. Right. Absolutely. All right.
Conservative House Republicans are making demands if a short-term measure to fund the government, they say it needs to be passed at the end of September. So here's my little money capital picture. There you go. The House Freedom Caucus said it plans to oppose any stopgap government funding bill that doesn't include policy measures related to the border, alleged weaponization at the Justice Department, and woke policies at the Pentagon. Come on. The group wants any stopgap to include the Secure the Border Act, which was passed by the House earlier this year, but strongly opposed by the Democratic-led Senate. Here we go, where they're going to tie up money because they want their ideologies in place.
Exactly. It's so ridiculous.
The same thing with Tuberville holding up everything because he doesn't like the abortion policies of the Pentagon. We hear you. We know. Move on. COVID. It turns out that exposure to the common cold might actually boost your COVID immunity. That, according to a Rutgers University study, the common cold and COVID are both coronaviruses, and researchers say people who've been exposed to the cold type may also build up pre-existing immunity to its genetic cousin. So,
interesting. Yeah. Okay, well, since you're talking about kind of COVID, I want to tell you this quick story. I was just going to squeeze it in, but let's squeeze it in now.
Okay.
So apparently, the arm in which you get your COVID-19 booster matters. So, did you ever get a booster?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, did you get it in each arm? How did you do it? Do you remember?
They always do it in my left arm because I'm right-handed.
Yeah. So, I mean, they always ask me which arm I want to do it in, and I do it in my left arm because if it's sore, I use my right arm more because I'm right-handed. That's what I did. And then I've heard opposing my good friend. She's like, no, I wanted it in my right arm because when you move your arm, it gets unsore more quickly. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's right or left. What matters is if you do it in the same arm every time. So apparently, it was 2 weeks after the booster, the number of those killer T cells, which fights the virus, was significantly higher in those who had both shots in the same arm. Those cells attack and destroy the other cells they target, were present in 67% of same arm cases, but only 43% in people who had their injections in different arms. Now, of course, more research needs to be done. But I mean, if you had to just kind of boost, your booster, they say, well, at least this new study says, do it in the same arm. So
can we talk about this picture? It makes COVID look like almost peaceful with the snowflakes in the background, like a wintry COVID wonderland. No thanks.
It's a coming in the summertime or the winter time.
Blue Beetle, a superhero replacing a doll at the box office. Barely. Blue Beetle ended the 4-week reign of Barbie, but just by a little bit. The DC superhero film debuted with an estimated $25 million over the weekend. Right. Barbie took home an estimated $21 million in its 5th week of release. So Blue Beetle by just a bit.
Yeah, and Tim Seeger didn't really care for this movie very much. But it is something. I mean, he was what he said it was okay, right? Isn't that what he said? It had to do with family.
Yeah.
But I think that it's just Barbie's been on top. It wouldn't take much to kind of beat her. The fact that it was only by a hair and Barbie's been out for so long tells you everything you need to know about the Barbie movie, that it's still extremely popular.
Here comes the iPhone 15. It launches in just a few weeks, and it will likely have a feature that no iPhone has ever had, which is a generic charging port. The USB-C connector will replace Apple's Lightning port. Of course, now because we already have all the USB-Cs, right? And the Lightning, we already have the Lightning port. I don't know. iPhones have the proprietary charging port since 2012. It's long been a bone of contention that you have to buy all their accoutrement in order to, use your phone. But yeah, so now we'll have the USB-C connector for your iPhone.
Okay, wait. Okay, you said the generic port, but it still won't use the old. It won't use the USB, right? It won't use those anymore.
USB-C. I have to look up exactly what it is, but I think it's more widespread than is the specific Apple little, tiny little flat one.
Okay. It's so freaking annoying, I swear. And I understand it's all money. It's just money, but it's still annoying.
Cruise is reducing its robotaxi fleet in San Francisco by 50%. The reduction is in response to a request by the DMV while it and law enforcement investigate several incidents when autonomous vehicles malfunctioned and blocked traffic. In one case, an accident happened. State regulators recently gave Cruise and Waymo approval to expand operations in the city. The DMV said, yeah, Cruise, we think you should cut it by half. And so they are. There you go.
All right. There you go.
And I wish I had a better picture for you on this story, but all I have is the photo of the gun allegedly used. The Petaluma Police Department is reporting a unique arrest. A man wearing nothing but a Speedo swimsuit and fur-lined boots was arrested near Steamer Landing Saturday afternoon. The 48-year-old was allegedly walking around with a loaded handgun and a high-capacity magazine, seen here. He's also accused of resisting arrest and violating his probation in the Speedo swimsuit and the fur-lined boots. So he's kind of ready for the storm. Ready to, keep the feet warm, swim away if needed into the Petaluma River. I don't know.
Oh, there you go. That's hilarious.
People are nuts. I don't have that picture of the Speedo guy, though. That's all right. This report is crowdfunded, which means we rely on you. You can find us at theNikkiMedoroShow.com, the PayPal link, the Patreon link there, and a lot more for you to check out, too. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Nikki Medoro Show.
Yes, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Please sign up to be a monthly Patreon subscriber. It is the #1 way to support this show. It's a one-time a month payment, and we really do appreciate it. So again, theNikkiMedoroShow.com. All right, I had a couple questions about my COVID booster in the same arm story. All right, people, look, it was on CNN. So here you go. The study looked at to answer some of the questions, okay? Not a huge sample. I will get this. Researchers used the data of 303 people who received the mRNA vaccine as well as a booster as part of Germany's vaccine campaign. It had the result of 67% more of those T cells from people that got it in the same arm versus 43 who had it in separate arms, okay? Now the question of why would it be that way? According to Dr. William Schaffner, who's the professor in the Division of Infectious Diseases at Vanderbilt University.
I'm sorry, did you just say William Shatner? No?
Schaffner.
Okay.
Schaffner.
Yeah.
Your Honor, yes. So he says it does actually make sense, okay? It makes sense why the location of the injection would make a difference. The cells that provide the immune response are in the local lymph nodes. Lymph nodes are across the body in places that include the neck, chest, abdomen, and armpits. If the immune cells in those lymph nodes are re-stimulated in the same place, there is a greater immunological response.
Nice. Okay.
Although the study showed a greater immune response, researchers cannot say for sure that getting the booster in the same arm is better or long lasting. We wouldn't know that unless we did a much larger clinical study. But there you go. That's why they think it does kind of make sense that if you do it in the same arm, lymph node sort of stuff is being reactivated. So, I mean, it can't hurt. right? I mean, it can't hurt. It doesn't really make a difference.
I'll take any little percentage of bump up I can get.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, you know what? I did it that way anyway. I did do it all in the same arm anyway. So there you go. Okay. So that answers those questions. Now, Kim just did it in her news regarding Cruz being told to, pump the brakes. I love how they say it. They got to pump the brakes on expansion. Here's a little bit from our friends over at ABC7. And let me know in the comments. Do you love robo-taxis? Are you still on the fence about robo-taxis? Or are you never, ever getting in a car that does not have somebody behind the wheel? Let me know in the comments. Here's this report from ABC7.
San Francisco wants state regulators with the CPUC to pump the brakes on its recent approval of Cruise and Waymo service expansion, claiming the city may, quote, suffer serious harm.
San Francisco is really the experimental lab for this industry, and we think it's critical that they work with the city to make sure that our residents are safe and that they're not interfering with our first responders, traffic flow, public transit, etc.
City Attorney David Chu is leading the effort. His motions come less than a week after the CPUC voted to let the companies charge for driverless rides around the clock. Waymo will start charging for rides next Monday. Cruise is already accepting fares.
And let me make clear, we're not asking to get rid of all automated vehicles on the streets of San Francisco. With this motion, we're asking the CPUC to really preserve current policy while we're seeking a rehearing.
According to the motions filed Wednesday, part of the argument from city officials is the commission failed to consider environmental impacts robo-taxis would have on the city under the state's Environmental Quality Act. Chu says data on dangerous incidents have also been inadequate.
From our perspective, we're simply asking for a pause so that we can have this conversation before a very significant expansion and commercial deployment by these companies.
In a response to the filings, a Cruise spokesperson told us in part, it's unfortunate to see the city use public resources to bypass that decision and restricted technology with an excellent safety record used by tens of thousands of SF residents. We've also reached out to Waymo.
We need to do our jobs. We need to make sure that our residents are safe. We need to make sure that first responders can get onto critical crisis scenes. We need to make sure that public transit and the flow of traffic are operating as they should. And we need to do this yesterday.
In San Francisco.
So there you go. I mean, now you heard David Chu right there. And he's talking about, there could be a risk to public safety because it could be impeding traffic flow. And I will say this, accidents could impede other, ambulances getting through. There's stalls. They happen all the time, right? So it's not as if it's new, but I think that when you have a bunch of robo-taxis that aren't moving and there's nobody behind the wheel to get their car out of the freaking way.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Like we saw with Outside Lands, when all of those, because the system, the internet was overloaded or whatever, or their cell towers were overloaded. That's the problem. Now, again, I understand the market need for Lyft and Uber. So quick story for those that haven't heard this. The first time I ever used an Uber or Lyft, I want to say it was Uber at first. I don't think I used Lyft back then the first time. I was in Lake Tahoe and we had rented a cabin on Airbnb and we had gone on this bike ride. And my kids and my mother-in-law had gone with us, but the bike ride was a bar crawl. Okay. So we rode our bikes to different bars. And so the kids obviously didn't come with us. But I wanted to bring my in-laws, my mother-in-law and the kids to the barbecue that we were having. And so we were trying to get a hold of a taxi to bring them. It was going to be at least an hour and a half, they said. It's not really that big, at least not where we were, to get a taxi there to us. And I was like, what the hell? So I downloaded the app. I remember I was standing in the middle of the street right outside this barbecue. I downloaded the app, 15 minutes. And my kids were in front of me.
Wow.
That is a market need. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the problem with taxi cabs. Is like every time you wanted one, there was no one around. And then you had to wait an hour and a half or whatever for one to come. Now, obviously places like New York where they're driving around, whatever. But you're telling me I could download an app and not only like, is it going to come quicker? It's going to come exactly where I'm standing, right? That was awesome. Who's asking for robo-taxis? What need is this addressing? Because I don't get it. I don't understand why we need cars without drivers. Because all that says to me is you have now taken a job away from a human being that was there before. So you want me to support a technology that I'm not asking for and that is putting human beings out of jobs? Make it make sense. Make it make sense.
What I'm perplexed about is the revelation that Willie Brown was being paid by Cruise, Waymo, whomever, and was, you know, not really releasing that, but was saying, God, get this to a vote already. We got to get these up and running in San Francisco. Well, it kind of pulled back the veil on this is big money. They're paying big money to get these things approved. And I think maybe it happened a little bit too soon because, you know, 1 minute it's getting approved, the next minute these vehicles are getting lodged in concrete construction zones, or, you know, they're not being able to stop for first responders. There's an accident involving one that inched out into an intersection that, you know, ought not to have. Can't see people coming and blowing through red lights. These are things that, yes, the accidents could happen with a human driver too. But I thought that these autonomous vehicles were supposed to be like the accident is extremely rare.
Right.
You know, like this is a complete anomaly if these things happen. But now it doesn't seem like that's the case. We're seeing report after report. And granted, the whole outside lands thing they're now saying was human caused. It was a pedestrian doing whatever. But I don't know if I believe that either, because I think
Wait, I didn't hear that update. What was the pedestrian?
Yeah, somebody walking in front of one, some pedestrian caused the big backup in North Beach, I guess. I don't know.
Oh,
but I feel like all that could be propaganda, as they're they're spending all this money to get these things approved and taking control of different stories about what's happening with the cars. I feel like San Francisco moved too quickly on this, and probably because they were pushed. Yeah.
Well, and as far as Willie Brown, now he comes out. He comes into KCBS on Friday along with Phil Mateer, who was not giving Willie any sort of break. But yeah, Willie is on Cruise's payroll, and I asked him. I said, I mean, what's the harm in waiting? And his response, like many, is, you want to slow down progress. That's the angle they're taking. Is what? You're like a Luddite, right? You don't like technology. You don't.
Wow.
What? You don't believe in progress. You're going to slow down. Yes. That was my kind of response. Yes. No problem with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I want progress. I just don't want it at the expense of lives and safety in San Francisco and on the city streets that we all use and share, whether we're living there, whether we're going to see a show, out to dinner, whether we're going to go shopping in Union Square, whether you have to drive to work there.
Yes.
Whatever it is, it's our Bay Area city, and those streets need to be safe for everyone to use.
And you're taking somebody's job away. Yeah. That's the thing that also doesn't seem to be, in my opinion, spoken about enough, is why are you trying to take a legitimate job away from human beings? What are they supposed to do? Jim says the need of a robo-taxi is because the number of people able to drive Lyft and Uber is too low. Assuming the autonomous vehicle had its own AI and not need a cell signal, it should be able to work. Well, it's not there yet. That's also what happened at outside lands, right? Their system was overloaded and a bunch of these cars stopped. I don't look, if there's not enough Uber and Lyft drivers, you need to pay them more. They have the surge pricing. You could bring more drivers to that location. But the idea isn't to take more human drivers off the road. I would say get more. Kim says taking jobs away from people who actually do labor and only giving jobs to highly paid tech bros to develop this technology. Yeah. Right. Oh, now there's tons more engineering jobs, programming jobs.
Right.
Louis says robo taxis are universal treatment to all passengers. and it doesn't depend on the driver's frame of mind and all the emotional stuff they're going through that day. I get that, right? You don't have to deal like somebody. I heard one clip, but one was like, what if they just broke up with their boyfriend, or, you know, they're mad about something, they're not driving safely, it's a safety thing. Natalie had mentioned, you know, young ladies don't have to worry about, you know, getting assaulted if they have a predator male driver. Okay, I feel like there's answers to that without going to zero driver. Jim says the companies for robo-taxis do not want to pay people. Simple as that. Yeah, it is very simple. And we should push against it. It's, you know, again, I'm not trying to be a Luddite. Okay. And if you don't know what a Luddite it is, someone that's kind of anti-technology, right? You like the old way of doing things. I'm not trying to be that. I'm just saying, does the benefit outweigh the negative? The benefit is the things you guys have mentioned. Okay, I don't have to worry about a human error. I don't have to worry about a human attitude. I don't have to worry about a predator. Okay. What are the negatives? Human drivers are losing jobs. There's nobody behind the wheel of a car if something does go wrong with the car, which is what we have seen. It's not reducing either the number of cars on the road, right? That was the whole thing with Uber and Lyft is, well, if an Uber driver is driving you, then that takes your car off the road, right? But there's still going to be human Uber drivers, and now there's going to be robo-taxis. So you haven't taken, in my opinion, a car necessarily off the road. Jim says the better solution is more muni tracks because most streets are too easy to clog. Just not 1 billion to go under China. I know the cost of doing something like that. The problem is when you want to expand public transportation and lay down tracks or whatever, it becomes a huge construction project that ties up the roads, and it's in California. So of course the red tape and how quickly it moves is like molasses, and it sucks, right? That's the bane. Building anything in California sucks. Karen says we should have the option to choose driver or driverless. I like the idea of not getting assaulted. So, of course. But I mean, we could say that about everything, though. I mean, then we could just go completely robotic for everything. We don't have to interact with any person, and that significantly reduces all of these problems that we're talking about. The Lady Beatrice says it's not creating as many jobs as it's taking away. Ding, ding, ding. I mean, I just was thinking of this show the other day, but there was a scene in this show that came out during the COVID. I forget the name of it. It was really well done. But anyways, there was a scene, and this was like kind of in the near future, and, you know, technology had taken over so many jobs. It was creating political turmoil and what have you. And the speech was given by one of the characters, and she's like, you know, we've all supported this. And they're like, no, we don't. I support jobs for, you know, kind of human beings. Really? But you use the self-checkout, right? You use this, you use, you know, robo-taxis. Every time we allow this technology to take the place of a human being, we're choosing the world that we want to live in. What world do you want to live in? Now, again, I'm not saying I never use self-checkout. And sometimes I do go to the human man checkout, right? But you have to ask yourself, where did that person's job go? Yep. And what is that person doing now? What does that person have the skills to do? Are they going to college? Because we know how much that costs. And we also know the college doesn't guarantee a high-paying job whatsoever, right? You can pay tons of money for college, and you end up with a degree in debt. And then you're still fighting for a $20 an hour job, which I'm sorry, in the Bay Area is not enough, right?
I think the same argument, though, could be made of every time you click to buy something on Amazon.
There you go.
Right? Where's that job of that local store that was in your community went poof a while back. Yeah. So it's like we make these choices over and over again without thinking of each other.
Mm-hmm. Anonymous says taxis were great until those MFers started price hiking and paying drivers less. Then came, we need self-driving cars, dirt for $10 million. You can get in early. Yeah, it's capitalism at work. I mean, we know what it is, right? The CEOs, these tech companies want to make the most money they can. And the most expensive things beyond developing the technology is actually paying people. Because the cost of living has gone up. So now all of a sudden they could figure out a way to have the technology come to your door without anybody behind the wheel. Karen says there was an episode of X-Files where the same scenario happened. They went to a robo sushi restaurant, and then she was picked up by a driverless car and couldn't get out of the car.
No,
Craziness
no.
ensued. Yeah. And what does it do to us as a society, though, Kim, as well? I mean, how many interactions do you have every day? And do you want more of those to be with a computer? Right. So last night, my son and I had a mom and son date. My husband's stomach wasn't feeling well, and I was in the mood for Korean food. I wanted bulgogi is what I wanted. Okay. Now, normally you can go to a Korean barbecue place, but that is spendy. And so I ended up going to this place called the Sizzling Lunch. Anybody ever been to the Sizzling Lunch?
Sounds good.
It's a chain because there's a few of them, but I've seen it. I've driven past it and I had never gone inside. And so I was like, let's try this place. I looked it over. So it's just me and my kid. And so we go in and there's like, have you ever been here before? And I said, no. And it was one of those places where they have the computer that you order. And you can make all the customizations.
Like at the counter?
Well, no, you sit down and every table has its own computer, like little computer thing. Touch
That's
screen.
a new one for me. I've never seen that before.
So it's a touch screen, right?
Okay.
And so I love my son. He's so like me. So we sit down and we're doing, I should have recorded it, but we were just having too much fun. And he says, okay, what do we think of the ambiance? Right. So we're judging the place. It smelled great. It wasn't that big.
I love him. What is he, 11 years old?
Yeah, he's 12. Yeah. So he's
what do we think of the ambiance?
What do we think of the ambiance? So I go, okay. So we walk in, and if you live in San Jose, the Sizzling Lunch that I went to is on Branham, and it's right next to the Branham Lounge. So it's kind of small when you go in there. So when I first stepped in, it was very smoky because they're cooking everything. Okay. And then, and we sit down, not very big, but we were seated very quickly. And then they have this touchpad. And so you can order, the waiter or the server walked us through it. He told us, so there was service. He told us what was most popular and how to use the touchscreen. We could do customization. We could put things on the side. It was actually pretty cool. And it was quick. And then they come out with the food. And we were having a conversation as we were doing our 2-person review that because of the use of the iPad or the touchscreen, that it allowed the only 2 workers. There's only 2 people besides the cook in the back. There's only 2 people manning the station, and there had to have been at least 20 tables, and they were full. Like it was busy. Okay.
Yeah.
But they were able to do it. Why? Because the touchscreen took care of the ordering. You didn't have to sit there and somebody asking all these different kind of questions.
But if
it was all right there for you.
If they have to come explain it to you, and the server comes out and says, here's our most popular, here's how you use the touch screen.
Right. But it took like 2 minutes.
Just take the order. Okay.
Right. Well, no, but it was awesome because he would have had to explain that to me and then given me time to look at the menu and then come back. He didn't have to do any of that. Right. And it literally took, if it took him a minute, it took him a long time. I don't even think it took him that much. Right. I'm not a moron. I know how to work a touchscreen. Right. And so he did that. I got my water. We got our food very quickly. That's all my son kept saying. Oh my God, we got this so quickly. Loved it. Explained. It was really easy. This wasn't replacing a job. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was making it easier for the only 2 people working. Now, could it have been 3 people or 4 people if they had to take orders because they would have been able to deal with it more quickly? Possibly. But I would hope that those 2 people make good money. Right. So you're splitting the tips between 2 people instead of it being split between 4. Yeah.
I think that if it's that busy, they probably, if they didn't have those touch screens, would have had to hire a couple more people.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
But the people that they did hire are actually making decent money. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So knowing what servers get paid and how much they work on tips, and again, not a big place. So there might be, enough to sit 20 people, but you combine some of the tables. And yeah, like Applebee's, there are some of those that use the touch screen. Yeah. This was actually really, really cool. You can order your appetizers, you can order your drinks. Korean barbecue places use this as well.
Ooh, Heather.
Those are all over restaurants, quick and easy to use, but absolutely disgusting because they've been handled by so many grubby hands. There was actually
a wiper,
hand sanitizer.
Oh.
So, I mean, how many things do you touch? I opened the door to the restaurant. You want to talk about grubby hands touching everything? That. is probably the grossest thing as well.
I guess
So yeah,
everyone touching the same screen, maybe reordering mid-meal with their hands covered with food.
the food thing. I'm assuming they
yeah.
probably wipe it down, and if it was grubby, right? If I do takeout, do I have to tip? Karen, are we having this conversation? And if I do, how much? 20%. 20%. That's my answer to everything. Unless you get, that is the bare minimum is 20%. If you do takeout, somebody cooked your food, put it in boxes, and delivered it to you. That's a service, in my opinion. What do you think, Kim? Do you tip?
So you're paying the same amount then
Yes.
as if someone had waited on your table.
Yes.
You're paying the exact same amount and you're not getting any service. You're just getting
I am getting a service.
Someone cooked your food and handed it to you at the counter.
Somebody cooked your food and handed it to you at the table.
I'm paying less if I've ordered something for takeout and they flip the little iPad around and say, "Can you leave me a tip, ma'am?"
You say no?
I'm not. No. I will pay a tip because I don't want to leave them high and dry. But I'm not going to give a 20% tip when I didn't sit down and get any service. And even my husband, who had in school, which worked in hospitality or dining establishments, he says that they didn't do anything.
That
they
they
just put it in a
did.
bag and handed it to you. No,
Well,
they
putting
did
it in a
nothing.
bag is it actually takes more time.
No, that's
to
not a
do.
20% tip. If I'm spent whatever it is, let's call it $60 because the price of food and whatever else
Yes,
on
absolutely,
a takeout
right.
meal.
Yeah.
You want me to pay you 20% of that for putting it in a bag and passing it over the counter?
Yeah.
No,
I do. Yeah, yes. I do.
I'll pay a fraction of that.
How much do you think?
It depends on, what the percentages is of the iPad when it flips around. But if it's just me deciding, I'll throw about $5 at the counter, in the tip jar or whatever. Yeah.
I just tip 20% no matter what. Whether I'm getting my eyebrows done, whether I'm going to get my hair done, 20% is what I tip. And if it's amazing service, obviously I do more than that. But no, I tip 20% no matter what I do.
I'll do 20-25% at a sit-down meal. Or if I'm getting a service like, a beauty product service or something. But if it's a takeout and I've taken the service part away, then no.
It is. That's what you keep saying. You're taking this. And I understand they haven't refilled your drink. Okay. But they are providing you a service. They have you had your order taken. They have to, and honestly, I don't know if you've ever worked in a restaurant and done the takeout window, it is a lot of work. It's actually more work to bag everything up and do all of the sauces and get everything in their thing than to bring it to a table. It is a lot more work behind the scenes. I know it looks like they're just handing you a bag, but it got stuff in there a certain way.
I'm in, I'm out. It took them much less time. It's not an ongoing process where they have to deal with me for more than an hour asking for things. I don't think so.
Okay. No, and I'm not knocking you. I think a lot of people feel like you do. I'm not saying that you're a bad tipper or anything like that. I just do. I do.
Yeah.
So Rhythm says, so someone that is taking your order in person, checking on you, handing you extra requests gets the same tip for that extra work as someone who puts food in the bag. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just being honest. I tip 20%.
Across
the board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I don't tip everywhere. Does that make sense? So again, if I'm going to a restaurant that I would normally tip at, I tip 20%. Do I tip at Taco Bell? No, I do not. Now, is there a difference in my mind? There you go, Perry Joe. Do you tip at Taco Bell? No, I do not tip at Taco Bell. I do not tip at Subway because I never did. I don't see that as a tipping place. Now, is that wrong of me? Maybe it is, but I don't tip there at all. Jim says California requires employers to pay tipped employees full state minimum wage before tips, so they are not surviving on tips. I mean, yes, minimum wage is BS though, but I hear what you're saying, Jim. I was a server for so long that I can't tip under 20% at a sit-down restaurant, even if it is takeout. I just can't.
I just don't think it's the same job. It's not the same job. And while I get that they're doing something, and sometimes if you look at the options on the iPad that they're
right.
Are you going to tip 1%, which is like $1.25? That seems like a pittance. So I'll go up from there. So I don't want it to be too much, but I also don't want it to be too little. So there's this weird happy place for me that's kind of lingers between between the the low end and the high end. I don't know.
A lot of people agree with you, Kim. A lot of people agree with you. I don't know how we got on the tipping thing, but because of the computer. But back to that. I mean, I do think, but you know what? Back to the computer. It's the computer that makes you feel guilty for not tipping, and tipping or not tipping, and it shouldn't. There are so many things I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm not. If I pick up a crumble cookie, right? And I understand there's a little bit of a hypocrisy here because it's like, well, what's one and what's the other, right?
Yeah.
But if I go to Crumble Cookie, for instance, and they flip the thing around, no, I'm not tipping you. I'm not tipping you.
Thanks for putting the cookies in a bag, though. That's nice.
Ren says, does the restaurant really pay the workers more money when they have touch screens? Oh, I don't know how that works. I'm sure there's some servers in there that get paid the same.
Yeah.
John says, I went to a burrito joint that asked for a tip when you pay for your food on the touch screen. Yeah. But you know what? I'm going to let a lot of these restaurants off the hook. It's not the restaurant. It's the technology, like Square or whatever. It's built into it. You can't take it out. So they needed a sign, and that's just a step that they have to go through. So don't feel like, oh my God, they're begging me for a tip. It's the system, and that's how it's set up. John says, I usually tip $3 to $5 for delivery drivers. Yep. Natalie says, when dining rooms were closed during COVID, I tipped takeout at 20%, but once dining rooms were open at 100%, takeout tips were 10%.
I think that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what's not true. I don't know. Kim says, or Kay says, I managed a pizza delivery place. Tips were not expected for counter service. I tip for pizza. Merchants can choose out tips on or off.
On that iPad, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought I read that it was part of the system. Okay. I was just reading that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you give them the option, who's going to say no? Right? I guess that makes sense. You're like, do you want them to have the option to tip you? Would you rather have the computer ask for the tip or a tip jar?
Tip jar.
Yeah, because I can ignore a tip jar better.
Mm-hmm.
Harry says, how much do you tip your bartender? I always figure $1 a drink when I'm paying cash.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I have cash, just like you, Harry, I'll tip $1 per drink. But how many of you carry cash anymore? So what I end up doing is I leave my car behind the bar, and then I get at the end of the night, I get the printout of all the drinks, and then I'll tip 20%. So whatever that turns out to be. So that's very expensive because it's more than $1 a drink.
So that's not 20% necessarily $1 a drink, because now, it's not that you have $10 drinks anymore. Now you go and the drinks are $17 or $18 in some areas, in some parts of San Francisco. I went to this place in Petaluma called Kapu, which is like a tiki bar.
Okay.
And the drinks are $17, $16, $17. So am I supposed to pay then $2 per drink? I don't know.
Yeah, it's usually when I get the bill, I look at the price, I look at the total, and I just tip 20%. That's how I do it. And I'm probably getting screwed. You know what I mean? I am. I'm probably over tipping.
No, but they love that when they see you coming, they're like, there she is again.
There she is. You know what
the
I
nice
won't do?
One.
I'll tell you this. This is the one caveat I make on my tipping, and it doesn't ever really happen, but it happened once. If I order an expensive bottle of wine or something, or champagne, that's going to jump up the bill. I'm just going to use $100. I am not including that in the 20. I'm making a mental note. Like, I just spent $100 on a bottle of wine. I won't include the entire thing in the tip.
But the sommelier told you which one to get and came and let you smell the cork and taste it.
I'm not saying I don't tip anything on it, but I'm not
poured it
putting
for you
another
and then came
$20.
back and poured you even more. I mean,
you're not doing that, so don't even try it.
If I'm the rare occasion when I go out to a fancy restaurant,
it happened once.
Then the wine's included in that 20% tip. Absolutely.
No. Yeah. So there was it wasn't actually me that did this. So it's not actually a completely true story, but somebody bought a bottle of Dom Perignon and it bumped up the price of the thing. Yeah. Now they tipped more, but they didn't include it as a total full price of the bill. So I was like, nah. I was like, I understand that, because I'm sure somebody's like, oh yeah, I just made another $20 just because they bought it. It's like, well, you got to kind of pick and choose your battles with that one. But yeah. Interesting conversation. You can always debate tipping with people. Some people want to take away tipping completely. I don't want to take tipping away completely. It never works out for people.
Yeah.
Kim says those tiki drinks do take a lot longer to make than pour a beer, glass of wine. Yeah, like should you factor in if you're ordering like blended margaritas all night long?
The work, right?
The work and the time, and everyone hates you. Everyone hates you when you order blended drinks. Just to let you know, they don't like you. No bartender wants to make blended drinks.
Yeah.
JT, salary should be increased and do away with tips just like so many other countries. I know, but we are such a tipping society.
We are.
That, we need it. We're used to it. So there you go. Okay. Click the thumbs up button before we say goodbye. Make sure you hop right over to Mark Thompson and then stay for the after party live with Kim and John. All the links to the channel are right on this page as well. So you don't have to go searching for it. You could just click on over. Speaking of tips, thank you, Harry, for always being so cool and dropping us a $5 super chat donation and a happy Monday. Happy Monday to you, my friend. If you're watching this in replay, you can also donate to the super chat. We absolutely love it. But the number one way that you can tip it, it's like a monthly tip, people. So think about it that way. A monthly tip to this show is by becoming a Medorable and signing up on our Patreon.
Let us flip the iPad around and present it to you.
There you go. There you go. So just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com, sign up to be a monthly Patreon subscriber. And the great thing is we won't guilt you with the amount. You get to decide whatever amount you want. It's one time a month, whatever you can afford. And we appreciate it oh so very much. Just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com, thenikkimedoroshow.com. All right. I will be back tomorrow. Stay for Mark. Stay for the after party with Kim and John. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You sprout like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.